I want to convey this message. This is the reason why we're here. We're here because in the 21st century, look around.
Yes.
Who is representing us?
That's right.
And because I'm not shy, I'm going to say like it is, in Spanish and in English. We do not have people of color represented. You know why? Because we have a system that is designed for people with money to be able to have a support, and that's why we have what we have representing us. If you believe in democracy, this is your opportunity. If you don't have a dollar, we have much more than a dollar. You know what we have? We have dignity. And when we have dignity, we have commitment. And we have commitment, we have our ability to organize and then go out. So if you all here commit to connect with every friend, every neighbor, then that's what we need to do. And now I'm going to tell you the final reason why we should still support both. And probably it's more important than everything that I said before. This is about time for us to send to Congress people who, instead of supporting systems that allow for violence and crime in our neighborhoods, to change that system to allow the opportunities for people, young people like you, to have an opportunity. It's not about talking about opportunity. No. That's pie in the sky. What we're talking about is changing the system so everybody has the opportunity to have access to those opportunities.
And this is why I had to turn away when you started talking, because this system is not built for somebody like me. I was told you'll never be able to do this. People don't know who you are. You'll never raise the money. You'll never be a viable candidate. And in my life, I've been told no so many times, and no is not a complete sentence for me. I am a person who needed help to stand, but then when I could stand, everything in me poured back into my community. That's what good government looks like. We help people when they need help, and then they help the people behind them. This every man for himself idea is not who we are. That is not what this country looks like. That is not who we can become. You know, and the way this system is designed, either by design or default, it excludes a whole segment of the population. You know, you touched upon it before. I am a black woman. I cannot take the skin off. It is who I am. It is what goes in the room before me, before anybody hears what comes out of my mouth. Everything that I say is framed in this skin. And people hear what they want to hear because of this skin. But there is no way to say that it is unconscionable that in this state, in 2018, we have never sent the Democrats have never sent a person of color. It is unconscionable to even finish that sentence, because there are so many people that are looking around saying, I don't see me. How can we adequately make decisions that affect everybody if the only people with decision-making powers come from one core group? It has to look different. Everybody gets to be here. And until we use our voice as a choice to say that we get to be here. You know, I was told people in the cities don't vote anyway. So we don't fear you. And I says, I don't want you to vote for me because you're afraid of me. I want you to vote for me because you recognize the possibility of who we can be. Hope is a strategy. I've seen it my whole life. I've seen my whole life what happens when good people come together and fight for people who don't have a voice. I was in this room a couple nights ago for a round table on prescription drugs, and I noticed those pictures on the wall. And it's not lost on me what representation in this state looks like. I can't find me in those pictures. There are so many people in our communities that can't find themselves in those pictures. Representative democracy is about all people having a voice and coming to the table and sharing what they know with the 435 other members there so that we move forward. Thank you for standing in the rain and knocking on doors and making phone calls and reminding people that we get to be here. Congress starts to look like us. No one can stop us. There's an appetite for change. I get to be here. We get to be here because we have a voice and we are important, and Congress should look like us. It would be the honor of my life to be a member of the Congressional Black Caucus, because I think that that is a caucus that just represents why I'm doing this, where people have fought and struggled for me even to have the opportunity to be here. Well, I'm not sure, because if the standard is having the office in the city where you grew up, I didn't grow up in New Britain, so I think that geographically the city is located, the congressional office is located in a good proximity to the Capitol. But what I will say is that how many people from New Britain work in the New Britain office? How many jobs have been provided for the community of New Britain? How many people, as I've talked to people in New Britain, even know that that office is there? Is it accessible to the people in the community, or is it just geography? Are we importing people from other parts of the state and saying we have an office in New Britain? I want a congressional office where the people in the community are represented. You know, when I am elected, my team will look much like my campaign. It will cover every demographic, all ethnic and geographical backgrounds, all socioeconomic groups, all age groups. That's what a representative office looks like. Not just geography, where you open up a location and import people in. You know, when we talk about Connecticut and the needs of Connecticut, we have to make sure we are addressing the needs of all people. You know, I think about a bike path. That's great. Bringing people together, talking in communities on a bike path. What about kids who don't have a bike? What about families that don't have access to those same opportunities? Don't they deserve a voice as well? That's what Connecticut has to look like. Congress should not just look like politicians or doctors or lawyers. It should be everybody from all different backgrounds coming together, working together towards consensus. How can you represent all people in this state if we're not making sure that all people are included in this conversation? I am just a regular person, an educator. That's all I thought I wanted to be. I work every day. I prepare for my future as best as I can. I don't own any stock in any companies. I don't have $1 million portfolio. I am you. I am you. Don't you deserve a voice in government? I'm not trying to make America what it used to be. I'm trying to make it what I know it can be. I'm trying to make sure that when those young people look at me, they say, I see myself in there, and I can do that. That they are bold and unapologetic and fearless in who they can become. That they are going out into the world and doing what I taught them how to do. And understanding that they get to be here. I think it's very interesting when we talk about a decision like Roe versus Wade, because we talk about it in a healthcare lens, as a healthcare decision. I'm going to tell you it's a life-changing decision. You know, I opened up by saying I had my daughter when I was 17. My care for her did not end at the moment when she was born. It was a lifetime of sacrifice. So it's not a healthcare choice, it's a life choice. And, I am a person who is deeply rooted in my faith, and I know what my choice would be today, but I don't want the responsibility of making that choice for someone else, because I know what that choice means. It's not a decision that you make on one day. It's not a decision that you make in isolation without considering all of the other factors that went into it. It was hard for me to try to get out of the situation I was in with the baby in my arms. I wouldn't change a thing about it. But for someone else to think that it is their right or their responsibility to make that decision for me is wrong. 1973, this decision was already litigated. Why are we turning back the clock on things that we've already fought for? Then the other side of it is, in countries where this is illegal, the number of abortion procedures is not less. The number of unwanted pregnancies is not less. People just find unsafe ways to do it. Predatory doctors, take advantage of these people. I do not want us to go back to a time where women are in closets with clothes hangers or unlicensed medical professionals in desperate situations. Nobody wants to be in that situation, but it is not my job to tell someone what to do with their body. It's not the government's job to tell someone what to do with their body. Women should have the right to choose what happens to their health, to their future, to their bodies, to their families. That is not open for discussion. The fact that we are even relitigating that, you can be a religious person. Those two ideologies can reside in the same body. I believe in God, and I believe in a woman's right to choose.
Okay. With respect to the environment, a question from Twitter: what qualifies each of you to protect our environment, and what actions will you take to slow the progressing dangers of climate change?
Well, what qualifies me is I live here. I breathe this air. I drink this water. I am a part of this community. When we talk about, I look at, that word is very interesting, the word qualified. This idea that certain people are qualified to do certain things. I spent my lifetime in education, so I know I have a different level of understanding than other people in the room. Different people have different gifts. So I'm sure there's someone here who has a level of expertise on all things environment. I know that we have to protect our future. We have to make sure that we are not destroying our natural resources. I know that we have to make sure that we leave things better than when they came. I look at, so my point, I always go back to Waterbury because that's where my roots are. But I look at, when we talk about the environment, what does that mean? In Waterbury, we have more Black and brown children who are diagnosed with asthma as a result of the air that they breathe than any other place in the state. We have to make sure that we have federal legislation that recognizes that climate change is real, that recognizes that we are part of a global world and we have to be at the table working with other countries to make sure we're reducing emissions and having regulations that support the kind of country that we want to have. And there's this homogenous group working there, and it does not truly represent the people of this district. It has to look different. It's to the peril of this party if we don't expand the definition of what this looks like and invite new people in invite them on the journey, help them move us forward, and stop trying to hold the reins on who gets to sit at the table.
Question, yes or no, do you support the federal legalization of marijuana? Jahana?
Yes. Yes, I do. Because the criminalization of marijuana disproportionately affects a certain group of people that looks like someone at the table.
Facts. Woo!
You know, I've been to parts of this country where I felt like I was in the 1950s. So I'm always leery about states having the right to decide on those things. You know, we have a federal government and agencies that were put in place because states couldn't get it right on their own. You know, as a history teacher, I know what happened after Reconstruction. I know what happened in places where states were allowed to direct what happened with their public education system. I don't trust that. We need at least a standard of this is how we treat people in this country. And I don't care what state you're in, you have to follow that. And if you don't, the federal government will make sure that you do. You know, I've been to places in the South as Teacher of the Year, gone into communities and thought, what decade am I in? We cannot leave it up to states to decide, because I know what happens when you have a state that doesn't feel the same way about the value of human life. My students were all working, and I looked down at them and said, who will speak for them? You know, who will share their story with the world? And I said, me, and decided I was going to run for Congress. I'm Jahana Hayes, and this is my truth. This is my home, where people are strong, but they aren't supposed to run for Congress. Life handed me my own hurdles to overcome. Raised by my grandmother while my mom struggled with addiction, became a mom at 17, cast aside. But I had a community that wouldn't let me give up. I raised my daughter, worked nights, went to community college, back for my bachelor's, master's, my education degree. Collaborate. What does it mean to collaborate? I became a teacher, got obsessed with the idea of teaching my students the power inside them to change their lives and their surroundings. Before I knew it, I was named Teacher of the Year in my city, my state, and then
2016 National Teacher of the Year.
I'm Jahana Hayes, and my story is my truth. I know the system does not reflect us, but I believe that all of us have power. All of us belong, because I've seen it in my own life.
I think the kids like Mrs. Hayes.
You know, teachers are nation builders. That's our job, to affect change, to improve outcomes. Isn't that the same job of Congress? I know how to advocate for people. I know how to fight hard to make sure that we are improving the lives of people with better jobs, stronger schools, affordable health care, giving the care that we expect from our neighbors. If Congress starts to look like us, no one can stop us. This is our moment to act, to organize, and bring our truth to power. We all have a part here. We all belong here, that our voices are important. I'm Jahana Hayes, and I'm not just a teacher. I'm a daughter of the village, mother to my hearts, advocate in the community I love, and candidate for Congress.
great. I thought Jahana was excellent, so she was just outstanding.
I have a veterans for Jahana, and we got a bunch of veterans going for Jahana.
Yes, she understands all oppressed people. My family is going through a situation. My children are American citizens. My wife is up for her permanent, she's a permanent resident, but is up to renew it. Unfortunately, with the Muslim ban, we can't renew it because of our faith. And I believe Jahana is the one who could understand and who would fight for it.
It is the end of a very long, very busy, very hot day here in North Carolina at the Perry Political Partnership. But I wanted to take a moment just to say welcome to Jahana Hayes, who is now a candidate we will be working with. She is a teacher, a National Teacher of the Year, running for Congress in Connecticut. We cannot wait to work with you. Welcome, Jahana, and let's go get the people's house. It's my favorite moment of the 2008 elections. Happened right after the North Carolina win, when the Obamas knew at this point he'd wrapped up enough delegates to win the nomination. The nomination battle went on longer, but this is when you knew you had enough delegates. It's this kind of spontaneous moment where Barack and Michelle come up on stage and they greet each other with a fist pound. Now, for me, this moment was like being white. And it was like that because there was my president, not yet, but I was starting to get an inkling at that point, greeting his intimate partner in a way that was so familiar that it didn't need speaking. It was just, yeah, of course, I have friends who did this at their wedding, right? It was so common, so regular, so just, yes, there we are, standing there being ourselves, except we're standing there being ourselves like about to be president. That just is not a common experience of Blackness in America. The Du Boisian double consciousness that you are always dealing with two selves about to be torn asunder. Moments like this kind of stitch those together as though there were really no distinction at all between being Black and being American.
Having problems is the human condition. All people have problems. No amount of privilege or privileged status or identity will keep you from having problems. If you do not believe me, I will remind you that Steve Jobs is dead, despite his whiteness, despite his maleness, because to be human is to have problems. But what I want to claim is that Blackness is not having problems, it is being perceived as a problem. So not how does it feel to have problems, how does it feel to be a problem? So I want to expand our definition of Blackness and of Black bodies and of how Black lives either matter or don't to include not every single person. Let's be clear, I don't mean this is an identity politics, but as a way of thinking about groups and of people who are seen as inherently troubling and problematic in their very existence. My bet is that my proximity to whiteness has, in fact, allowed me over and over again a level of racial naivety and a willingness to believe that if I could just get the right white folks to give me cover, that it will be okay. I show up on TV and say words because at the moment I have the cover of a powerful white man. Like at the moment, a white man is like, okay, you can sit on TV and say words. And the moment that that powerful white man no longer wants me to sit on TV and say words, I will not be allowed to sit on TV and say words anymore.
We have never invested as much in public education as we should have because we've always had kind of a private notion of children. Your kid is yours and totally your responsibility. We haven't had a very collective notion of these are our children. So part of it is we have to break through our kind of private idea that kids belong to their parents or kids belong to their families and recognize that kids belong to whole communities. Once it's everybody's responsibility and not just the households, then we start making better investments.
At what point did it become intolerable for us to think about young people having to grow up next to other people who they are going to have to interact with, who may at any point cause them physical, emotional, psychic, personal harm unto the death. Because quite honestly, that's like Tuesday for me. Like any Tuesday, not just election Tuesday. Every single time a black woman who is a mother tries to rent an apartment or buy a house or send her kid to a public school that her tax dollars pay for, she has to ask that same question. But I don't want to miss the ways in which his presidency may in fact be uniquely dangerous, particularly for undocumented communities, some of whom are black folks too, at that intersection. The president and the Department of Justice, even as they are doing critically important work of reducing the prison population, that is our domestic federal prison population, have not done so relative to the incarceration of men, women, and children whose only crime is a status crime of being in the wrong, let's think of it another way, of being across the wrong boundary, like Jim Crow, a status crime, sitting at the wrong lunch counters, drinking from the wrong water fountains, going to the wrong schools.
But I want us to be super careful when we use the language hard worker, because, I actually keep an image of folks working in cotton fields on my office wall, because it is a reminder about what hard work looks like. So I feel you that he's a hard worker, I do, but in the context of relative privilege. And I just want to point out that when you talk about work-life balance and being a hard worker, the moms who don't have health care, who are working on,
I understand that.
But we don't call them hard workers. We call them failures. We call them people who are sucking off the system. No, really, y'all do. That is really what you guys do.
Take a long time, so let's just go ahead.
All right.
All right.
We good? We are at a critical juncture. Many states are facing challenges attracting and retaining teachers, especially minority teachers. It is now my privilege I'm sorry, don't kick me out. To introduce to you someone who understands everything I just said. The President of the United States, Barack Obama.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Well, welcome to the White House. And thank you, Jahana, for that wonderful introduction. Everybody, please give the National Teacher of the Year a big round of applause. You just need to settle down. This is what makes her a great teacher. You can't be great if you're not enthusiastic. You gotta love what you do, and she loves what she does. And what's remarkable, now, if there's one thing Jahana wishes she had in school, it was more teachers who looked like her, as she already mentioned. And so she wrote and won a state grant to inspire more students to become teachers, but especially to recruit more Black and Latino teachers in her district. And that's important. Jahana, please join me to accept this award for America's educators, the Crystal Apple, as the National Teacher of the Year. Thank you so much, everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States, accompanied by Secretary John King and the 2016 National Teacher of the Year, Ms. Jahana Hayes.
It is now my privilege I'm sorry, don't kick me out. I thought they were going to kick me out of there. They were like, stand still. I was like, this is as good as it gets. Like, it was so surreal. That was still. Yeah. I was still.
Well, I don't blame you. It's an exciting thing when you meet the president.
First of all, I'm never getting invited back.
Honored in Washington, D.C., and even got to meet the president. But more importantly, this is how she reacted when she found out she was going to be on my show.
Hold on just a second. Hold on.
Take a breath. From Waterbury, Connecticut, please welcome Jahana Hayes. So I love this story. Tell everyone how you got into teaching.
I always knew I wanted to be a teacher, and then in high school, I got pregnant. Yeah, sucks. And I was like, they said.
Only on CBS This Morning, we're proud to announce the 2016 National Teacher of the Year.
And the winner is, drum roll please, Jahana Hayes. Woo! Shout out to you, Mrs. Hayes.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States, accompanied by Secretary John King and the 2016 National Teacher of the Year, Ms. Jahana Hayes.
Back at the table, she was the 2016 National Teacher of the Year. You remember that day, Mrs. Hayes? We sure do. She teaches social studies at John F. Kennedy High School in Waterbury, Connecticut.
We're back with another thing we're thankful for, teachers. Jahana Hayes is a history teacher at John F. Kennedy High School in Waterbury, Connecticut.
This great energy to bring back into our classroom.
Jahana Hayes, and I am the 2016 Teacher of the Year. That I took them on their first service experience, and they take that with.
Call that a wraparound?
Everyone, yes.
Yeah, engage.
Right now on Face the State, can she go from Teacher of the Year to the halls of Congress? Jahana Hayes is here to talk about why she wants to go from Waterbury to Washington.
Event, and you start to notice the kids who.
Tigger, welcome.
President Hampton, Bishop Williamson, as much as I love you, I need for you to know I am honored and beyond humbled to have been selected as the 2016 Connecticut Teacher of the Year. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here.
I'm the Teacher of the Year.
I haven't stopped long enough to think about it. I've just been and cleaned out their room and moved on to the next big thing in their life.
Talk about the parallels here between being in the classroom, being in Congress. How'd you decide to do this? You're elevated to this national profile.
Just a teacher. Hello. Good
National Service of Readiness and our guest today, Ms. Jahana Hayes, 2016 Teacher of the Year.
Been chosen as the National Teacher of the Year. Jahana Hayes teaches there at John F. Kennedy High School in Waterbury.
Big deal. I come from a family of teachers.
Well, it's not that different, you know.